Right, hi everyone, it's Bob from Greybeard Models. Welcome back to my channel. And I think first thing that I need to do is give a shout out to Jason over at Model Kit Stuff. If you follow his channel, go and have a quick look. He did a Meet the Creator video with me, and it's Meet the Creator, Greybeard Models. But thank you to Jason. Appreciate that, mate. It was great fun doing it. The other thing is, because that's gone out, I've now got another load of new subscribers. So to all you new guys to the channel, welcome. You are most welcome. And we're in the middle of doing this Gecko truck build. So if you stick with us, you'll see that. If you like what you see, please, do the normal thing, leave a comment, whatever, and I don't mind what the comments are. They can be good, bad, indifferent, whatever. So yeah, leave a comment, hit the like button, and in the meantime, we'll get over to the bench and see how we're getting on. Right. So the first part that we're going to do is get the chassis together there, which I've actually already done. So let's move that out of the way for a moment. So that's that done there. Then obviously for lining it up purposes, the grid references on this cutting mat make excellent aids to making sure everything is pretty much plumb and square and all that sort of stuff. It's a bit fiddly to do, but it does work. And also because it's not a parallel chassis, it's a tapered chassis, so you have to take a bit of care with it, but it's good locating points and stuff, and goes together reasonably well. So moving swiftly on, the next step is to put the front springs on, and these parts here. Now, springs, not a problem. Identified those on the sprues, I've cut those off. There's a few sprue nubs I've got to clean up, but the next thing that I found was like C51 and C16. So I've got sprue C here. Let's move that out of the way. So I've got sprue C here. So part number 16 on the sprue is that part there, and part number 51 is that part there. So you have to be very careful, because there's two parts here right next to the springs that actually look like they're the parts, and it's interesting that this part here, that arm there, that's 51, and that arm there is 52. So you've got two parts on this sprue that have the same number, but they are distinctly different. But it's worth watching out for that, so be careful when you do that. So we'll have to remove those from the sprue, and there's a couple of other levers and things that have got to come off of sprue D, or DA. So I'll get these parts off, and then we'll have a look at putting the whole of the front suspension together with the springs. Well, I've gone ahead and got on with the assembly of the chassis, and that's all done now, including all the various linkages and stuff for the brakes, and also putting the tow hook and all the rest of it. So we've got all of the chassis completed now, right up to this point. It's at this point that the kit goes ahead, and actually it's section 7, so let's get that over. So section 7 is all about assembling the rear wheels and putting the internal face of the drum, the disc, the drum brake on, and then getting this into place across here. Now, I'm not entirely happy with these wheels, and for no reason other than there are some better wheels out there on the market, and they are resin wheels. So what I'll do is I'll get those over and we'll have a look at those. Now these resin wheels are made by Def Models, and they're a sagged set of wheels that fit the British Austin K2 truck. Obviously it's a picture of an ambulance there, and it says here it's for Airfix kits. So what I want to do is have a look at this and see if it's possible to make these fit this kit. I mentioned these before in a previous video, but on this particular build I think I'm going to go for it and see if I can get these to actually fit onto this Gecko kit. So just bear with me a second. I want to get everything unpacked and sorted out, and then I'll show you. So out of this set, this is Def Models. It's their set number WW2 and these are supposed to be what they call Dunlop's tyres. So obviously I think to get around, you know, trademarks, whatever, they don't say Dunlop. And there's essentially 5 resin parts, which is that, and there's also in the set an easy mask set. That's to mask the wheels off when you paint them. Now there's 5 wheels here. This is the spare. This is the spare wheel. It's got S on it. This is wheel A, and these are the front wheels. And the reason that I know that is that when you look at the instructions for these wheels, there's a different format. If you look there, there's like 2 clamps either side, and this one is just on the rear here. It's just a wheel that slots straight onto the axle. So that's the front one. That's the front one. That's the rear, and that's the rear. So these are marked A. These are marked B, and the front ones are marked A. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to assemble the rear wheels and put them together, and then compare them with these resin ones. These resin ones, I'll cut this sort of moulding sprue, if you like, off, and we'll get to the shape of this tyre. Because when you take this off, you end up with the sort of flattened area there, so it's where it's sagged under weight. And I think as this is a truck and I'm going to put a load in it, I think it would sag under load. So I'll get that done and then I'll come back to you. So anyway, having built the rear wheel here, in the Gecko kit there is another plate here. This plate actually sits onto the rear axle on here. If that'll focus, there's a square on the end of this axle there, and then you've got this part of the axle which goes into the wheel. In the resin one, this plate here is totally different to this one. So I think the next thing to do is have a look closely at the Airfix wheel, and see what the difference is between the Airfix wheel and the Gecko wheel. So I'll stick those over there, and stick that one over there, and I'll get the parts out from the Airfix kit, and we'll have a look at that, because I can assemble those wheels. It won't matter, because obviously at some point I'm going to build that kit. So bear with me a second, I'll come back to you. So having constructed one of the Airfix rear wheels, you can see here, it's a spot-on match for the resin one, or the resin one is a spot-on match for the Airfix one. It's exactly the same. Obviously the benefit with the resin one is you have the sagged effect. The Airfix one stands proud on the tread. What I've done with this is I've just, the Airfix one wheel is essentially three parts. It's the outside of the wheel, inside of the tyre, and then the inner hub. One of the things that it doesn't have, or it does have, let's start with the does haves. So one of the things it does has an indication there of a valve, but it doesn't have any writing on the wheel on either side, and the tread patterns a little less God, I'm right out of shot there, sorry, let's do it again. So there's the indicator of a valve there. The tread pattern is a little less defined, and there's no writing on the wheel. The resin wheel has far better definition of the tyre tread on this type of tyre. It has the name on there, the lettering on there as well, and it has the tyre size, all of that sort of thing. That's on the inside, and the outside has little valve indication of valve gear there, and it has the lettering on the outside, that sort of thing. So all in all, this tyre, the resin tyre, is great. So if you're building the Airfix version, that resin tyre is by far better than the kit part. However, getting back to the Gecko wheel, and the Gecko wheel is there. The Gecko wheel isn't perfect, I'm not saying it is. The way in which the wheel is constructed, you've got the inner rim of the inner wall of the tyre, the tread of the tyre, the inner wall on the reverse. You've got two parts here in the hub that create the hub, and then you've got a part inside which creates the part that the wheel turns on the axle, and then you've got this interface here, and then on top of that, connected to the axle, you'll have the inner part of the brake there. So there's far more detail on that because it's got the writing on it as well, but there's more work involved in putting it together. It's also a bit of a pig to get the two parts of the tyre, the outer part of the tyre and the inner part of the tyre, to line up perfectly. It is a bit of a mish to get that to, as you can see, there's just there in the shot, there is a fine gap there, which, you know, to get this all to work really well, you've got to get in and maybe give that a bit of filler just to fill that. So it's not the best method in the world, but it does give you a bit more detail. Now, in terms of doing a swap, the resin will swap directly with the Airfix kit, so that's given, and that's what DEF models have designed it to do. With the rear wheel on the Gecko kit, if you replace it with that, although you'll get the sag, you lose all the detail on the inner hub and the brake. So I think, although it's a great replacement tyre, and it doesn't have the gaps around the wall and all of that sort of thing, it's great, but you can't use it on on the Gecko kit, because you lose the detail of the brake drum, and I'd rather have that detail, to be honest. This is a simplified version, or maybe an early version, I don't know. So we'll push on with the construction of the Gecko kit as it is, and we won't use the resin wheels. Right, moving on. I'll be back with you in a second. Okay, so we've got on with the assembly of the rear wheels. I've got all of those together, so I'm hoping that you can actually see that. But as I pointed out before, there is a slight gap there. I've dealt with the gap on this one slightly. There's another little bit of work to go on there, but I just thought I'd show you how I do that, how I deal with that. And so what I tend to do, and this is on the reverse side, I've done those. So on the front side, so what I do is I get my jar of Mr. Surfacer 500, and you know, coffee stirrer, give it a bit of a stir up. It does settle, it gets a little bit thicker as time goes by, and as you can see, there's a lump there that's sort of come off the rim. That's fine, that can go into the jar. It will dissolve in there. So one of the things that I do, get a cocktail stick, and let's do this one first. So what we'll do is we'll just apply the Mr. Surfacer along where the gap is with the cocktail stick, and you can actually manipulate it so that it runs down into the gap, and it's a bit fiddly, but you can get there. Now you will have noticed that there's quite a bit of material there. Try and get just on the end of the cocktail stick, but what you'll notice is there is a good deal more there than I really need, but that's fine. We can deal with that. There's another bit of a gap up there, so we'll just go in there and put a little bit more in there. Like that, and that will then sort of sit in and fill that gap, and we can go around it and pretty much trace the gap and get that sorted out. So just leave that for a bit. We'll go back to this one, and this one's the same. So we've got a little bit of areas there where there's a gap between, or gap along the tyre wall. And just a bit over there, take some of that. So I'm having to try and do this on camera is really quite tricky. But it can be done. It can be done. So there's a little bit more of a gap in there. So we come along with a cocktail stick and just push a bit more of it in there until we think that we've pretty much got it all done. Maybe another little bit in there. Like that. So that's that done. we'll put a lid on that for now. And I've got a little jar here. It's got a little bit of the Mr. Surfacer, what do they call it? Yes, it's the Mr. Leveling Thinner. So we'll take that and go along with the cotton bud. And the cotton bud will lift off the surplus material. And you'll see it spreads out a bit, but that's fine. Another little drop. And what will happen is, right, go back into shot. Right, okay. So what will happen is, we'll gradually remove the surplus Mr. Surfacer. And that will gradually come off. Just gently wipe it with the cotton bud. And what will happen is it'll remove the Mr. Surfacer, and it'll leave the Mr. Surfacer in that gap. And then we can come back to this later when it's all sort of dried a bit more, and come back with it again with a cotton bud and the leveling thinner, and again it will remove all the surplus material. And bear in mind this is a tyre, so what will happen is, once all of that is sort of removed, have a tyre with, we take advantage of the fact it's a tyre, and it's going onto a truck, and it's potentially going to get weathered. And then time we put the wheel on the truck and add some weathering and paint and whatnot and all the rest of it, you won't see any gaps or any joins in there at all. And we can go in some places where you maybe got a little bit of the Mr. Surfacer stuck in there. It'll come out. Just go with it with a cotton bud, and you can remove, as I say, you can remove all the surplus that you want. I mean, if you keep going, eventually what will happen is you'll bring all of the Mr. Surfacer out of the gap, but you don't want to do that. So it's a bit of a, you know, trial and error, if you like, but you'll end up removing the surplus material and the gaps will be filled like that. So we've got the wheels done. Would say the wheels are in motion, but that's done. So we'll go on and continue with the build, and I think that's about it for now, having dealt with the wheels. So thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed that, and we'll see you again on the next one. Take it easy. Bye for now.